Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks. We are here at the ranch with the adventure van, and today we have the allpowers R1500 portable power station. This is a game changer. This could be and possibly should be the cornerstone for wiring all the gadgets and gizmos in your adventure vehicle or van life build. Out here at the ranch, we have very limited power, so we're going to look at it as an off-grid power supply, and it might actually be the most cost-effective standby power supply for inside your home. So I did not know much about these at all. In fact, I didn't even know they existed. And then allpowers reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in trying one of these out? And I said, what is it?
Where have you been?
These power stations have been around for a few years now, apparently.
What? No way.
News to me. This is a lithium-ion battery-based power station. They're being used for van life builds, they're being used for off-grid living, and they're taking the place of small generators for basically emergency short-term power outage solutions. There's also a killer feature in here. It's a UPS if you use this in your home, which is an uninterrupted power supply. But we'll get into that a little bit more later. Let's dive into the general. For those of you guys that gotta know, this is 1100 watt hours, 1800 watts with a 3000 watt max. All the specs on the website, and they have a couple different models, but for the most part, we're just gonna treat it like a big old battery what charges things. What you get with this thing is pretty rad. Power the thing up. This is how it arrived at 70%. It shows us on this display that we have 0 watts going in and 0 watts going out, and in this state it's going to run for 9 days. Over here on the DC side we have a USB-A 18 watts, we got 2 of those, USB-C 100 watts, 2 of those. That's the equivalent of your fast charger for your phone and all that jazz. There's 2 wireless charging spots right there on top, which work by turning on the DC power supply. Gives you a little indication that's on, so you can drop your phone right on top and it'll start charging right there on the wireless ports. Now the phone is charging, we're getting 11 watts output. If you need your phone to charge quickly, you're gonna want to grab a cable because that's 10 times the output. It's giving us real-time data actually. Now we can run for 2 days like this, charging at 70%. In addition, there's 4 AC outlets right on there. So essentially what this is able to do is put out DC power and AC power, and it says pure sine wave AC. So basically that shouldn't mess with your more sensitive electronic devices. These have their own on and off. So if you had something plugged in, say at your home, at your campsite, inside your van, you don't have to plug and unplug. This can actually be your switch. Yes, it does power all of these at once, the same way this switch powers all of these, this, and the 2 wireless spots all at once. So right in here, we have all of the charging ports. So there's a solar or car input, 12 to 95 volt, 13 amp max, 100 to 120 volt, 15 amp max, charging port, overload protector, charging port. So they ship the unit with its AC charger, and there are 3 different modes to charge, but on the fastest mode, it will charge in under 2 hours. Now, in addition, they sent us over their solar panel, which I'm opening now when it comes in this very fancy case. So right here on the back, we got some instructions for dummies. Point it at the sun, don't point it at the ground, don't put it out in the rain. So even folks like me can figure it out. Well, I guess see what this sunny day will do for it. Not gonna lie, this thing's actually really sharp. I kind of hate to put it down in the dirt, but you know, we're gonna. 60 watts of charging on solar, 8 watts out, which is still going to my phone, sitting on the wireless port. That's pretty cool. Now, if you're into data and stuff, this also comes with an app. The app offers me not only real-time information on what's going on, what the input is. We're getting 76 watts from the sun right now. Sun is back out. 0 watts output. AC is currently off, DC is currently on. I can turn that off. You can change from 50 hertz to 60 hertz. Not sure why we would want to. I need to dig into why we would do that, but I'm sure there's a good reason. You can change the mode on the device in here, and you can also do shutdown. So right now, this thing is set to shut off in 1 hour. So if I walk away from it, leaving something charging, it'll just shutter down, which is a huge bonus, especially over a more traditional van life sort of battery system, and we'll get into that here in just a second. In here, buried, is an inverter that I intended to install in this van. I've had it, I don't even know how many years. And we did a ton of work wiring on this van and we still didn't install it. And I'm gonna show you why. Dang it. Ah, disaster. Son of a... It's fine. This marine deep cycle battery core that I've been toting around for over 4 years, I think, for the time when I needed to trade it in to get a brand new marine deep cycle battery to wire that inverter in the van. So traditionally, if you were going to build in an auxiliary power system, i.e. a system you're going to use in an overland vehicle or a camper van that is not going to drain your main battery source, you still have to start way up front at your battery. This is as far as I got with it. It's an additional battery cable that runs to a circuit breaker that runs to a solenoid so that when the engine is no longer running, it automatically disconnects the two sides of the system. The system to start your vehicle and the system to run all your gadgets and gizmos, who's its, what's its galore. Thingamabobs? Maybe 20, but who cares? No big deal, we want more. So once you've wired your battery separation circuit, you've got to put your battery in somewhere, cabinet, under a thing, and from there you wire your battery connections to an inverter. Your inverter turns the DC power into AC power with this switch. This is an older style inverter, but this one turns DC to AC. Let's say you want to run DC stuff because that's what's available these days and it's cheap and it doesn't draw any power. LED lights, little fans, USBs, cigarette lighter style stuff. Well, you still have to wire that into your own custom system. It's all right there, ready to go. Furthermore, you turn this thing on, it's going to continue to run off your battery until your battery is dead. If you forget to shut it off, man, you're sunk. This one, we've already learned, we can turn off by setting a timer. All the wiring you have to do to get your second battery to run an inverter, all you need is a car charger. I'm an absolute minimalist when it comes to van build outs. First of all, most importantly, it's because I like the space. If I put a bed platform in here, my nose is against the ceiling. And I did live on a tour bus for a while, and while those experiences were fun, sleeping with my nose on the ceiling did not make the fun list. There's versatility in here. I can put some bicycles in here, put a mattress in here if I have to move across town. I can work out of it. I can sit here and chill out and I'm not cramped around a bunch of stuff that I use every once in a while. This fits that lifestyle. You can just use it the way that it is. It's already wired for AC and DC. All you have to do is plug it into a cigarette lighter outlet on your car. That's it. You're done. No connecting your inverter to your battery, to your solenoid, to your other battery. None of it. Now, if you are one of those OCD types and you want to build this into a cabinet, you can. You can just use a USB jumper to go from here to a full-blown switch panel to keep everything neat and tidy and hidden. Just make it as fancy as your little heart desires. So the reason that thing never got hooked up is not because I don't know how to do the wiring. I'm actually pretty well versed in that type of stuff. The marine deep cycle lead acid traditional car battery type batteries, well, if you don't use them regularly, if you don't cycle them, well, they just die. They eventually lose their capacity to hold a charge like all batteries do, but they perform way better if you're using them regularly. And let's say that you know how to do this stuff and you think you can manage your way from the front battery all the way to the rear battery, but you'd also like the option of solar. Well, the least expensive kit, including a battery, 100 amp hour battery that is relatively similar in power output as the one we have in this allpowers power station, is around 900 bucks. Now that 900 bucks did include all of the wiring, the solenoids, the fuses, the solar panel controller, the inverter, and the battery. You still had to install all that stuff. This is the battery, the solar controller, the inverter, the AC adapter, the DC adapter, the wireless charging port. And this is only 500 bucks. With the solar panel, 728. Already you're in a couple $100 less. You're pre-wired, you have more versatility. And don't forget, if you're not using it in your van or your overland vehicle, you can take it out and move it into your house. A system with a deep cycle battery and an inverter like this one lives permanently in the vehicle that you install it in. Now, right off the bat, this thing functions as a UPS. UPS. For those of you that aren't in the know, that's an uninterrupted power supply. That means if you plug, let's say, your desktop computer into this thing, because you're doing a lot of editing for old YouTube, and the power goes out, well, even if it just glitches, sometimes your computer will shut down and you lose all the work that you've done up until that point. This thing is an uninterrupted power supply. So if you have this plugged into the wall and your computer plugged into this and the power goes out, there's a 15 millisecond switchover and this will start supplying power. Likely, you won't lose your work. So then let's say this thing is still in your house and a storm picks up.
Storm.
Ooh. Well, you know what? If the power goes out, you've got 1100 watt hours to charge your phones. If you're desperate and it's hot, you can plug a fan into it. If you just can't live without the television,
No color TV?
No color TV.
you can plug in the television. And in addition, if the power's out only locally and you can plug in your internet router, you might even be able to get internet from these 4 AC outlets. I can hear you now. You're like, well, how long could it possibly last? Well, it depends on what you plug into it. Do the math and figure out the power that you need, because the other thing that's remarkable about this thing, as it came from the factory, it's expandable. You can add, I think, up to 2 more batteries to this system to have even more power for longer for all of your absolutely can't live without needs in any situation. So not only is it an out-of-the-box, ready-to-go system for adventure van like this, an overlanding vehicle like that, you could use it in a camper in an off-grid situation, or like I need to, that garage is powered by one 20 amp circuit right now. So that right there is already increasing my ability. And if that's not enough to make a $500 investment a good enough value, I can always bring it into my house. So we only lose power maybe a couple times a year in bad storms, and only for short periods of time, a couple of hours. Next time that happens, having something like this on hand is basically just gonna make it more comfortable. Simple as that. So unfortunately, so far, I am not a man of leisure. I don't just travel roaming the country in my van, enjoying endless time off. I do a lot of different things. So the versatility of this really creates the value of it, because I do have an adventure van slash work van, because I do have a currently kind of off-grid property, and because I do have a regular old house that loses its power every once in a while, and like also have a computer that could probably stand to have an uninterrupted power supply attached to it, which I didn't previously have. The uses of this device in my personal life are pretty extensive. I love the idea of traveling in this van. Haven't done it in a while, but I have worked out of this van both as sort of like a mobile office and a mobile tool shed. So the idea that I can charge my batteries both for the camera to keep you guys on board, but my tool batteries, my cell phone, and now I'm also going to put it to the test. Here we have an 1100 watt kettle. I would like very much to have a cup of coffee. I love coffee. Let's see if it can do it. It's on. Output 900 watts. Look at it ramping up. It's a Kenyan coffee we roasted the other day. It's cooking away. It's knocking down about 2% off the battery. That is just as fast as if I plugged it into the wall. Turn that off. Can shut that down. Here I am, gang, with a piping hot cup of coffee, which means this device will allow me to make at least 50 cups of coffee on a single charge, which to me is remarkable. And if you're saying like, oh, just get a camp stove, that's just one more thing to have stashed somewhere that only is kind of a one-trick pony. And you've got to keep the gas cylinders full. And I don't really love open flame inside my vehicle, you know? It's not a hard no, I just don't love it. And a camp stove won't charge my phone, my camera batteries, provide light, charge a laptop, inflate an inner tube. Somebody come up with some more and put them in the comments, because this is pretty great. I mean, we didn't even crack this open. Look, regular, old, classic cigarette lighter outlet. What can't you do with one of those, you know? Don't get me wrong, I really did enjoy redoing this van last year. I added USB cigarette lighter circuits all over the place, even an additional fuse panel to run more stuff potentially in the future. If I'd known that that thing existed, the amount of money and time I put in, and I still never completed it. I never put in the marine battery with the inverter. This would have been a better investment of money by far, and I can't even say that it would have been a better investment of time because I just opened the box and turned it on and it was at 70% and we've just been using it. That's it. And just for full disclosure, they sent this thing asking if I would review it. I'm not paid, I'm not endorsed, I'm not whatever, and I'm not required to say any of the things that I'm saying about it. I'm just stoked on it, especially with my own experience of wiring this van for adventure and accessories, and knowing the work that goes into it and the cost, and just seeing how not only does that bypass it, it's more successful at it than I was. The versatility and the mobility are equally mind-blowing as the utility of it. It's already set up and ready to go. Let's say we're not going anywhere in the van, but my buddy says, hey man, you want to go off-roading in my Land Cruiser? Well, we can pack that thing up, shove it right in the back of that thing, and we're in business. Or if we've got a project out here at the property and need power on the far end of it, I don't have a generator. I don't want to put in the investment of a generator. I don't want to keep a gasoline engine running that I don't use very often. Same thing for having one at the house for power outages. I just don't have one. But this thing right here will replace a generator for most of the times I need a generator, which are a simple power outage or just needing a little bit of power remote on the far end of the property. I can't say enough good stuff about it. And at 500 bucks, it's not cheap, but it is the most cost-effective solution I have ever seen for powering an adventure van if you wanted to bring some power to a campsite, and then the versatility of it being useful inside your home for power outages or as that uninterrupted power supply. I mean, if you added up the cost of what it takes to wire a van in the traditional way with a single marine battery and an inverter and a solar panel, I would say that's around $1,000. A cheap generator is around $600 or $700, and a cheap uninterrupted power supply is around $200. That's $750 with the solar panel, and it's totally expandable. You can get add-on solar panels to make your solar array bigger, and you can get add-on battery packs to make your overall power supply larger. I don't know, look into it for yourselves. If you think there might be utility for it, or you're contemplating any one of these projects, this is definitely worth putting in the column of options. Run the pros and cons on it. It's awesome. All right guys, thanks for watching. If you guys are into DIY projects, adventure vans, abandoned properties, classic cars, home improvement, whatever it is we do around here, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate the support. Channel's been growing a bit, so thank you very much if you have already subscribed. Good luck on your projects, and we'll see you next time on Between the Sharks.